comes to markup, nothing significant, just a few little minor things here and there. Sorry, I had a couple of edits here just while we've been sitting here. I don't know who has had a chance to take a look at it. I think Charlie's been looking at it today.
I had a hour and a half, and so I got about halfway through it very thoroughly and then skimmed the rest. So I have a few comments, questions, so.
Go for it, Charlie.
Trying to find my,
Well, I can narrow it down to the fact that, Section 1 is really, there really hasn't been a lot of changes through the drafts. A few things here and there as we've sent edit backs for like language and how they phrase things. And then Section 2 is, the port facilities. 3 is the public engagement, and that's just reflecting things that took place. So there's nothing there to edit. It's notes about what was discussed. And that's it. I mean, and then Section 4 that talks about the future. So
so
you guys want to focus on 2 and 4, that's kind of where we are.
well, sorry. I'm gonna start on page 7. There's a map of a bunch of communities that the Port of Nome serves. And I think there should be another sentence or two that says Kodiak, Kenai, Homer, Anchorage, Seattle are also destinations for vessels.
For backhaul.
Well, backhaul and to and from. So, I mean, yeah, freight originates on the Kenai Peninsula, comes to Nome and Seattle, and then I know that NSCDC has gone back and forth, sold some fish. Our competition last year with the crab sold his crab at Kodiak. So there's, the point is that including some of these larger ports contributes to the perception that we're one of the players. So that's my comment.
You said Kodiak, Kenai, Homer, Seattle?
Seward,
Seward.
you got Seward.
Okay, so we want-
there too, is what it was.
Yeah.
Kodiak, Kenai, Seward, Homer, Seattle.
Didn't that boat try to go to Dutch and then
Yeah.
turned and went to Kodiak in the end, so you probably had Dutch harbor.
So yeah, well, that is in there, but that's as far south as they list.
Got that, that's not.
So, then mining activity, it talks about graphite 1, and I think that's
What page? What page on?
13. And didn't that estimate just triple their production?
Off their last run, I think it did at least double.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, I mean,
Then also you got mining activity going out. Definitely the next 5 years are going to be good for us for rock.
Yeah.
All the stuff going to Barrow and possibly Kotzebue.
so there, and then then it talks about national security, public safety on page 15. And so that, I think, I've seen those maps with all the ship transits. And if we had the oldest one we could find and compare it to the most recent one we can find, we would see that the Russian side was, 10 times what it was. So the northern, and that's part of the security and having pollution control and so forth. that's one of the reasons for the Port of Nome to be here for the Coast Guard to respond to maritime emergency. So, in the final sentence on that page 15, it says the word hub, and I would have said resupply point, but whatever. I mean, that's style, and maybe that's just an opinion. So, yeah. Oh, sorry.
What about a resupply destination?
Yeah, something. I guess on page 14, recreational activities. Other things, when we take people on tours, we go to the Park Service to look at archaeology, we go to the museum, and we go to the Culture Center. So I don't know if that matters, but a couple of those are, we got just down about the Culture Center thing. And then another huge component of tourism is birding and muskox viewing. And that contributes money to car rentals, hotel, restaurants, and that component is about $1 million annually. So that's significant.
It's mentioned down on the bottom paragraph on the left, right? Muskox and birding.
I missed it.
Bottom left on page
Including
15.
muskox and reindeer. Birding is also a popular activity.
Okay,
Yeah.
well,
Maybe emphasizing the birding, how
But we
it's,
can emphasize the economic impact.
yeah, I mean, it's, because those are, unlike some of the ship tours, they're here for an average of 3 days. Some of them are here for weeks. But that's where the money adds up. I've known people that came in on the ship and stayed to go birding. My wife's family has done that.
Well, we've also chartered helicopters and up and down the coast and all that good stuff.
well, you see them fall all over the sides of the roads, you know, they're renting cars.
The seawall revetment, page 19. In 2006, the seawall was extended 460 feet to the
East.
east.
Oh, west.
East.
West. It's part of the navigation improvements project. It went west from the mini.
Oh,
They
Well,
added
just that
section-
little knoll there coming out.
They added that section to the west when they built the east breakwater.
okay. What about from Kitty Scott's going down past the Old Country Store? That was a,
That's DOT did that.
Okay.
At some point.
Yeah, they did.
I don't know. That's DOT from Kitty Scott East.
okay. I was thinking that was what they're talking about. Okay. Okay. Never mind. So I think that was it. I'll keep looking into it.
What else do you have, Joy?
Well, the fourth paragraph on page 25, national security that Charlie was talking about. I have some edits to that fourth paragraph. I'm looking to expand on that. Single source they're citing for 2021. So
Looking at the wrong one.
that one,
Me too.
What page?
Yeah, what page?
25?
And are you looking at the left or the right?
Bottom right.
to use the packet numbers, which are in the gray box.
Yeah, on the bottom right.
So if we're gonna do that, then it's, it's page 18, gray box 18. It's national security page, Charlie was talking about.
17, 8, Port and Home on top.
Fourth paragraph, the bottom one in the center. I'd like them to talk to them, expand upon that one.
Okay, one more time there. Your numbers and our numbers are not driving.
On the bottom, where the.
Bottom left is
gray box.
18. Well, we don't have we can't look, we don't have a gray box.
What
How
number
do
is
they
it?
not have gray boxes on the bottom?
We have a picture of the Port and Home.
Yeah, that's,
No, on the bottom, right?
Yeah, I'm looking at the bottom right, there's no gray box on this. I don't know what this.
Yeah.
we're looking at the numbers of the actual strategic plan.
Okay.
Strategic plan would be page what?
Okay, it is,
Like 15 of the strategic plan, I think.
15?
15 for
First section.
back. All right, Nome, national security and
Yep.
public safety.
Okay,
yes.
that's page 15.
Okay.
So what do you want
That
to
is so strange, my package is different than yours. Anyway, bottom paragraph in the middle.
Yeah.
It cites the Gracious, I guess that's how you say that, 2021. Want to have them broaden that just a bit to some more recent sources on national security and enhance that paragraph that, I mean, I don't have specific language for that to be done, but I will here in the next week or so, and have them investigate as well. Let's see, my next comment is on, geez, I can't even see the page 39. Report of no modifications. You can reorder the how they're showing the phases.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's a real minor thing, just how they've got them listed. And then a few little, like, minor language edits, like connecting words,
Drew's got his hand up on the screen, by the way.
Drew, what you think? Talk to us. Oh, he can't.
Just going back to what Charlie was talking about with recreational and tourism, another market segment of that I've noticed kind of taken off in the last 4 to 5 years has been photography tourism and the photography workshops that folks are coming up and leading, whether it's just on nature or muskox or whatever, but there's definitely been a big increase. I think that's definitely a growing segment of that tourism section.
Okay, thanks, Drew.
On the page that you were talking about, Joy, as well, with the focus area, the key map needs to kind of go along with the, with some of the stuff that we updated as well, like it shows barge access and travel lift tanking in 2. Okay, I don't know if that's still current. I thought we kind of moved that to shoreside and off of the causeway.
Which one you looking at, Greg?
Page 38, the picture of focused area key map. And I was just looking right there where next to the bridge was discussed for the travel lift, and then
That's section 4.
yes.
and then moved to the beach. Maybe there's some barge access that's still talked about being utilized there, but I don't remember that discussion. So maybe just an update on the picture. Looks weird.
They've got the barge access and travel lift areas in the wrong place,
Yeah, it looks,
so,
just needs updated to what we discussed.
so you've got that one that's next to the nav channel into the harbor, they've got it over again, Causeway, yeah, wrong place. So those are kind of corrections we can have them make. For sure. And then on the next page, they have the phases listed in the incorrect order. And the next page too, I asked them for the project to rearrange them, even though the Corps has them listed phase 1A, phase 1B, phase 2 and 3. The way that they're gonna be constructed puts phase 2 second in line.
Mhm.
And that's how they should be displayed, in my opinion, because this is,
So then,
Misleading.
then actually 1B would be 2B instead of if we swap places.
no, because 2 is only dredging. 1B is actually an extension of phase 1 after they build phase 1A. 2 is only dredging. That's how they created the phases.
Yeah.
So we just need to phase 2 ahead of 1B. And they can do that because they did that on the project drawings. It's just not the same here in the plan.
Easy fix. Yep.
Generally speaking, I think the plan is close. I think there's some editorial things and drawing corrections, and then there's going to need to be a little bit of language added, like Charlie was saying about the other ports that we're connected with as far as what's exported out of Nome and backhaul. And then the national security section that I'd like to see improvement.
And we did work over the subsistence portion of it too. I mean,
They changed it
Yeah.
to what we sent them, but we can expand on that if we want.
Did we,
I
did they include the stuff from Quirk, the gal from Quirk's? Some of the stuff?
Yes.
So one of the big problems was that there is no subsistence estimates for Nome per se, just Nome. There's regional estimates, and there's all the smaller communities have had an estimate at some time in the past, but the trouble with Nome is that it's been talked about, and when I worked at Fish and Game, it's been talked about since I worked at Fish and Game, and it's a huge statistical problem to sample Nome adequately. So it just never happened because it would be too expensive. So that the citations about equating Nome to Shishmaref for what Goleman or whatever community you want that's not really a very valid way to do the data, but you can make some general statements about the importance of subsistence, and that subsistence users are the largest stakeholder group using the port, and blah blah blah. But it's to list empirical numbers, we don't have, and nobody does, and so you can't cite anything because there's no study. So anyway, I took it upon myself to rewrite that portion and made it a little more generic, and wrote in some language that indicates how important subsistence is, but there's no there's no hard numbers. And it's not our fault. It just hasn't happened.
You said you wrote some stuff in, is that on a page and the part of this, or what
Yes,
are
it
you
is.
referring?
It's like 2 pages. There's actually one typewritten page for me, but it was split. I forget where it is.
This section we're talking about is on page 11.
One thing that I made a note about as well was something that Derek said multiple times about the various future facilities, especially on Fort Road, being low-lying. And they mentioned multiple times in here, vault tanks for toilets. So that's still in here. I circled it all again. Maybe we can
Oh, yeah.
change the language on this to whether it's above ground or mobile or some other option. I found 2 sections that it was still in, but I'll keep going on to that as well.
So page 11 and 12 was the subsistence worker. So the figures are still kind of, I don't know. Anyway, but the text is totally different.
So where they're getting these numbers at? Or who
So
who compiled these numbers?
either Fish and Game or Coerican Fish and Game. And they're not, you can see them, it's a wide range of dates there. So it's not taken in the same year, so it's difficult to actually make comparisons from community to community because, you could have a good salmon year and a bad salmon year compared. And, the further west you go, the more marine mammal oriented the villages are, and the eastern villages are caribou, moose, salmon. Nome's kind of the dividing line, and then as you go further west, it's marine mammals. So St. Lawrence Island skews the numbers to marine mammals. Nome doesn't have king salmon, at least virtually none. So.
And these numbers, as far as in pounds, are just lump summing everything in that area together in poundage? Is that what I'm reading?
Yeah, the page 11 numbers,
Yeah.
I believe that's pounds per,
Pounds per capita.
Says on the left.
Why just list 3 or 4 or 5 with the 5? There's 15 in the area.
because
Lack of data.
there's not that many studies. And so there's been a variety of studies since the 1980s. The earliest studies were regional, and then in the 2000s, it went village by village, and in-depth surveys for 1 or 2 villages in the region per year. And, they're well done as far as they went, but they only have dedicated 2 or 3 people to do the job. To do Nome, it would take at least 20 surveyors to do it right. So.
So what would you like to not be done with this?
Well, I wrote the text that I think is defensible, so. I like my stuff. So. So. I don't think it's misleading.
Joy, what's your thoughts?
Well, like I said, I think we're close.
Well, on this particular subsistence
Oh.
mapping and stuff.
No, I think Charlie's right. The changed graph really broadens the focus because it was specific to Shush, but as Charlie explained to me, without a known specific report, it's kind of hard to provide what was requested because it doesn't exist, but I think the general statement, I mean,
None of these village surveys specified a particular river. So if you were to do a Nome survey and then whittle it down to just the resources that passed over the port, so we would exclude the Solomon River and maybe the Cynic River, and it would get really complicated. It'd be hard to do.
but I think bottom line, that the focus is trying to make sure that this is another of one of the important elements about the strategic development of the port. But as that is the scope of the plan, I think we need to ensure that we track the importance of the activities and the protection of the activities that throughout development, as well as the protection of the environment impacted by the development.
So the final paragraph I wrote was saying that subsistence is important and that we considered it and we've amended our operating plan to facilitate it. And so it's not like we've ignored it.
Yeah, I don't know, I'm looking at some of this other data on here, like Nome census area, commercial salmon fishing, CFEC, so that's how many permits are issued, it's not how many it says number of fishermen who fished. Is that really who fished, or is that just who has a current permit? And also 107, so we're talking like everywhere, so that's not just Nome.
Right.
area, that's like,
The entire sub-district.
yeah, I
So
think we have, like 3 or 4
up to 6, but
that
yeah,
actually fish,
well, I made one delivery anyway.
2 fish.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I mean, there are people that go out and make a two fish
well, I
delivery.
mean, I can name them right now who was fishing, so it's like,
Yeah, but
I think this is pretty hard to read and make any sense of our port, reading this stuff. I mean, CFEC stuff, it's like, okay, well, same with the crabbing. I mean, okay, commercial crabbing. There's a whole bunch of people that crab elsewhere, they try down in Shack, they do okay. They're obviously doing Golovin, they're doing Uncle a little bit. And then as far as who actually gets a permit versus it says, I mean, I'm just reading the verbiage, number of fishermen who fished. Just because they get a CFEC license doesn't mean they go fishing.
no, I mean, Fish and Game keeps track of who made a delivery.
So is that
So I think,
what's extrapolated here, or is this just,
No,
because it's citing source, CFEC, it doesn't say,
looking at the numbers, I think
Fish and
I
Game.
think it's people that made at least one delivery.
all right, well, I just see the bottom of each column says source, CFEC, it does not say Fish and Game.
CFEC would, if they have the number of pounds landed, then they know who landed them. So,
All right, well, I suppose either way, looking at this data and Nome census area really is fairly irrelevant to Port of Nome. The crab one, I suppose, is somewhat closer to relevant, but still.
Well, then you got crab and halibut, then you got cod.
Yeah, but this is just showing the CFEC commercial crabbing permits and the commercial salmon permits. And it's just that data that's on here is like the whole region has very little to do with the port.
well, in the case of crab, most of the crab is processed in Nome, so. most of the salmon is processed in Unova.
Yeah, cute little salmon family up here.
Mhm.
Does do some, but not much. Anyway, I guess it's on there. It's not wrong data. It's just somewhat irrelevant.
So are we going to remove this data here and
No,
and
I just,
rework it?
just making sure that it's known somehow. Maybe there could be a sense.
Well, we don't want to put out false information,
It's not false. It's just the.
but if
gnome
there's no other
census-
data to compare it to, like Charlie says, then why should it even be in there? I mean,
Well, I think throwing in a sentence or two, just, defining the Nome census area might be helpful, because you read Nome census area, most people don't realize how large that is and what that actually includes without a quick Google search anyhow. It might help if somebody were reading this, because if they know nothing about fishing and they're just reading this for data points and they read Nome census area, they're thinking Nome.
That'd be pretty easy to clarify if that's something.
Yeah, just a quick sentence that Nome census area includes these communities.
got that? Can we beat this some more?
Hey, if we're on fine tooth, let's be fine tooth.
I did.
The idea is to see if you guys are interested in,
Give them this little push forward.
putting this under new business once you start the regular meeting. And, when you approve the agenda. And then if there's interest in making a motion and taking a vote on taking action on this plan.
I think it's gonna, the consultant's time is up. We've edited. We've submitted our comments once again, and in a practical sense, it's either gonna get approved and used or fall in the trash can and never be seen.
But we can also, with the clerical edits and maybe some sentence structure and some other things, we can make a motion to push it through with discussed edits as kind of a final edit, right? When we get into new business and make our, we could work it out. Past, like,
I see like two paths here. Could recommend passage tonight based on the edits we discussed, which some of the clear editorial map corrections, those type of specific comment additions are one thing. The subjective additions are something else. So the alternative you could do is say, make these few changes, put the additional language in, and you guys will need to have a single item pointed meeting before the end of the month. Just have to pick a day, get around the table and say yes. Those are basically the two options.
so this requires
Another meeting.
report, motion, vote to move forward with as far as enacting this final product. We need a motion And we need
When
to,
when we get into the meeting, if you guys are prepared to do that tonight with the changes we've discussed, it's your call for sure.
I'd like to just get it done with, because I'm not gonna be here the rest of the month, so.
Well, we gotta make the edits, though.
well, I mean, we
That's
only have a few edits. I mean, we can't just say with the edit. I mean, I know that there's some map stuff and some of the stuff needs scribbled out because it's going to the wrong location. But as far as a sentence that just says Nome census area includes these villages, I don't think that's a massive edit.
Yep. No, you're right.
I mean, I'm no rewording, just the addition of a sentence just for clarification.
I just don't know how everybody feels right now. If everybody's good with it, then sure, you can proceed.
Drew, how are you feeling?
Excellent.
I think the Nome census area is definable, so I'm good with it.
Okay,
Okay.
so we can start the regular meeting and Mr. Chair.
Alrighty, I'd like to call this Port Commission meeting to order, our regular meeting. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Smithheisler,
Excused.
Commissioner Lee.
Here.
Chairman West,
Here.
Commissioner McCann. Commissioner Sheffield,
Excused.
Commissioner McClarty.
Here.
We have four.
Okay, need a approval of the agenda as presented.
Mr. Chair, we also would like to add to new business the Port Nome Strategic Development Plan for consideration.
Okay, with
Motion
amendment,
to approve agenda.
With
as
amendment?
amended.
second,
Second.
okay. Roll call?
Commissioner Lee,
Yes.
Chairman West,
Yes.
Commissioner McCann,
Yes.
Commissioner McClarty,
Yes.
motion passes.
I need a motion for approval of the last meeting's minutes.
Move to approve the minutes of the minutes of May 29. 2020.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Chairman West,
Yes.
Commissioner McCann,
Yes.
Commissioner McClarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Lee,
Yes.
motion passes.
At this time, we open up the meeting for citizens' comments. Would anybody like to address Port Commission? Seeing nothing, no one out there. Moving right along to communications. In your packet, the cruise ship support schedule. I didn't get. Any questions on that?
What page is that on? Didn't see that.
Yeah, I didn't get that either. but-
It should be at the very end, the.
Second to last
It
page.
should be like the, second to last page.
Oh, it's on the back. of that page.
Back.
Okay.
All right, so, two,
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to point out Westerdam is coming up the 19th. It's a week from today. So they'll be at the small boat harbor. We'll be setting up a landing site, clearing out some space on the floats, and
That's the big one, right?
that's the big one. Yep,
How many people is that? Supposedly landing, approximate
1,800. Could be less, could be a little bit more.
16 to 18-ish.
so this is down, total number is down from last year? Or-
I think we were at 12 last year. We're 11 this year.
Any chance of
But
additions along the way?
Not that I'm aware of. The one change that happened on this one was the Seabourn Venture in August. Instead of just being here the 27th, they now are going to be here 27th and 28th. So it'll be like half a day of letting them to come in shore one day, and the next day they'll have a whole other wave from coming in. But that one's much less passengers.
There's one that's 1,000-ish.
Is that the roll?
The Rolled is close to that.
This roll was stuff.
And then from what we're hearing from the Westerdam is that, I don't remember the name right now, their sister ship, same size, same passenger count, is now wanting to visit us in the future. So more than likely, next season, we'll have the Westerdam and their sister ship.
Standing.
which is good news because we've just heard nothing but good feedback from them, liking the community and liking the trip here. So that's good.
So is that in correlation with the Blueberry Festival on the 19th, 20th, 21st?
I have not
Solstice,
heard.
yeah.
I know they did something last year for them. We kind of arranged the berry festival a little bit early, but I'm not sure this year. I know they have a planning meeting or had a planning meeting. So
Any other comments on the communications? Hearing none, moving right on to commissioner updates. Any updates from the commissioners?
I and you and others participated in a oil spill drill last couple days. All you guys ran out of the room and left me to be the instant commander. So anyway, it went pretty well. And it was very Coast Guard centric. And the DEC oil spill people were here, and they were having a good time too. The big new thing is managing more with computer forms and remote, teams or not teams. What was anyway, it could be, you could run a incident command center remotely or virtually, and it would be add to the depth of the city when we needed it, because oftentimes everybody gets involved in operations or the accounting, and there's less than perfect organization. So it's a way to expand GNOME's depth a bit. Of course, there were problems where people weren't. We had a computer bandwidth problem the first day, and the second day the weather shut down the drone, and so as in a real incident, the best laid plans fell apart somewhat. But that, from my viewpoint, that was a good thing to impress the Coast Guard that this is not a cookie cutter situation, and we'll have to rise to the occasion no matter what. But our City of Nome's chief complaint for emergency management has always been it all falls on our shoulders for the first 2 days, and then finally the agencies show up just as we think it's all buttoned up. And so it was good to have an exercise with the people that are sometimes our worst critics, and I was happy to see that they had an opportunity to experience the real world. So, and I don't mean to be disparaging of the computers, because it really did add to the response. The virtual incident command center was a cool thing. So, anyway, that's all.
Well, I spoke to some of the DEC people randomly walking around. They said it went very well.
I only yelled at one Coast Guard person.
Well, I have no updates, so.
Okay. Harbor Master report.
just briefly, we have Bowhead in right now. AML came in with their first and second barges. Busy as ever. Bowhead's gonna store a bunch of stuff on the concrete for a week or so and getting ready, stockpiling rock for Shishmarath. Shortly, right now, getting things ready up on the Thornbush pad. Gonna be starting to haul rock for the Barrow project soon. in preparation for the Barrow Rock barges that show up earlier mid-July, whenever the ice there goes out. Other than that, we got the floating docks in. Thanks to Alaska Marine Excavation for picking our anchors for us. That made it very easy. And then, or our anchor chains off the line, I should say.
Who was that?
Alaska Marine Excavation, the Alaskan Hawk dredger
Okay, I was gonna
guys.
say, I thought you, gotcha.
Yep.
Didn't know that was their, business name.
Instead of us having to winch and hook it and let the slack off, and then winch and hook it and let the slack off, do that about 4 or 5 times each one. They grabbed it one time, pulled the chain right up over their rollers, one pick, pulled the chain up, hooked it in, did that to all 4, it took like 15 minutes. It was great. Other than that, just off to a busy season. And the city's boat, the Guardian, should be in the water tomorrow.
Any questions of the harbor master? Drew, any questions?
Yeah, I did, it's not from your report, just a curious question I had. What's the time frame that the larger boats give when they're coming and going, and if there's not a tight window, what does that look like as the port grows and we look at, more boats coming in and possibly more smaller boats do that navigation? What does that reporting look like between you guys and those boats?
Are you talking to commercial vessels that use like our commercial docks? How soon do they let me know they want to come in?
Yeah, or even, cruise ship vessels, I know you have to schedule, way ahead of time, but, any of the commercial vessels or just larger, even mining vessels?
It's a mixed bag. We get the cruise ship vessels will tell us, 6 months ahead of time if they can. And they're pretty good at sticking to it. AML is also really good at barges. They'll tell us months out, and they tend to stick pretty close to those. All the other freight and construction barges, like Barrow, I know we're estimating ice out, or they are, I should say. So they can give us a rough time frame of mid-July for that. But most of the other vessels we don't hear about until about 2 weeks out at best. Sometimes it's less. So I have a 2-week schedule board at the office right now that's only about half full, but as you creep towards that next week, it fills up pretty fast. And then for the larger, like last year we had 2 of the large dredging vessels were using the causeway regularly. A lot of times we wouldn't know much about their wants to come in until like the day of, sometimes the night before. They want to get fuel or had a breakdown and want to come alongside of the dock. But it's definitely a mixed bag in terms of how much notification they give us.
So do we have or will we end up developing at some point, kind of a standard, I don't know if it would be in the tariff schedule or where, just to kind of, not codify, but kind of set an expectation for vessels as more traffic increases?
I could see that, yeah. Right now, it's especially during July, August, September, we start to see people requesting space, but when they call, you can almost hear the cringe in their voice, knowing that it's probably going to be full because they're asking on such short notice. So the good news is as we move forward with future expansion projects, especially anything that creates more dock space on the causeway, that will really help alleviate that issue.
Thanks, that's all I got.
Drew, we do have actually, I think it's a 24-hour notice. Could be 48. I'd have to read it and see if we've changed it. Remember, we had it in the tariff quite some time back. The drawback is, for the customers, is they know the sooner they request space, the better off they are. So, like, sometimes the little barges will give us 48 hours notice and find out there's no space available. So they wait until there is. So they've all learned over the years that that's what happens when you ask at the drop of a hat. There may be space where they can jump in and Lucas always accommodates them, and then there may be not. So For those that are able to give us advance warning, they reap the benefit. For those that aren't, then they usually have to get in line.
And that's all I have.
That makes sense.
What's our plan for the barges that, other than the two gone, that are sitting there taking up room? And we either need to get rid of them to open up space, or what's the plan there?
We were actually just talking about that today, and that we're working, today we were down meeting various users in the lower pad, looking at some of the stuff that's been sitting for years. A number of them have been contacted today. Others will receive a letter asking what their intents are to do with some of the stuff. And our intents are to clean it up, make it go away. Just like some of the jack up in the river who's received a letter that it needs to be taken down, dismantled, or something done with it, so it doesn't just live a life there before it gets too aged to move. The ones we're seeing issues are, just like you said, the biggest dredges that are out in the center of the pad. If they don't intend to launch, there's a strong possibility we'll be clearing holes for them on the south bank and then trying to get them to roll over that way, store over there.
Yeah, because it is very tight down here right now as we speak, as everybody's moving
And it'll
around.
only get tighter as the Galvin Bay is launching today, which will open up a nice lane, but I can promise you, as soon as that opens up, we're gonna fill it with freight. So it'll continue to be tight.
For those that don't pay the bill, those are impounded and then will be put in a queue for disposal, dismantle, disposal, sale. For those that do pay their bill, we're trying to work with them, even if they're really prompt about paying their bill, about getting their vessel out of the way if they don't intend to launch. Like he's saying, paying the bill is good and all, but if you're sitting on the hard year round, and you're right in the middle of commerce, then yeah. Like Lucas said, we talked about that today, and we're developing strategies to work with the folks that actually they don't have plans to work the boat, but they haven't been able to sell it.
You have several in there that fits that category, so.
Yeah, it's a quandary.
So sitting all black vessel at least made payment, or are they on the,
They're all paid up.
they have a plan?
That's what we're waiting on.
'Cause, I mean, yeah, the other big gigantic one, it's in the way, but at least it's kind of got some square corners and you
We
can
were-
work around it, but.
It's exactly what we were talking about.
The other one being there is in a pretty messed up spot. If it were gone, at least you got pretty much both sides opened up nice.
I identified a nice spot on the south bank where I'm pretty sure that's gonna roll to if it's not gonna go in the water.
Okay, so they haven't, did they make it known that they don't have any plans to go in the water then?
No, he says he's in town in the next several days and we're gonna talk.
Yeah, that'll be nice when that's gone.
I guess one other thing is there's a handout notice you guys see here. It's effective this date, pedestrian traffic is no longer permitted on the Causeway facility. This is something that's sort of been brewing for a while. We've talked about internally. Vessels carrying passengers and large amounts of passengers or crew that walk to town. It usually does not jive with the other industrial traffic, especially with all the rock and other movements that are going on and plan to be going on over this season and seasons going forward. And then as we start development on the Causeway out there as well, that's only gonna just amplify things. So we feel it's important to not have walking traffic mixing in with all that and instead utilizing shuttles, cabs, rentals, and setting up rallying points or drop off points within town if they want to shuttle people in. We felt it was best to not just take them across the Causeway Bridge and dump them on Lower Port Road somewhere where they're still just right in the heart of things, having to walk across the bridge with a walkway. So the harbor office is the closest area we felt that would be a really good spot, but obviously based on what their itineraries are doing, if they have tours, they'll do other things. We sent these out to the users, and I've received notices back from a large number of them saying, sounds good, not a problem. So,
So what's the plan for moving the AML office and all the other containers off to the left-hand side of the road going, so that opens up that whole laneway to access the dock with rock trucks?
yesterday, AML started moving some of their freight, and they're organizing their yard. AML said this year they have more LCL freight than they've ever had in the past. They have hundreds of containers to go through and pull individual pallets or individual items out for people. So they're asking to use that space for a short time, another week maybe, if that. They have an electrician, or power has been routed to their new office location, which is on the northwest corner of their large tent, is where they're gonna put it. Their big dome tent. So power's already stepped up there. They're sending up their own electrician in the next several days, maybe probably by this weekend. And he's going to hardwire all both offices, and they're gonna add power and lights and other services into the main tent, which they haven't had in the past. And then in the future, once they get some stuff in, they're gonna come back and rewire it so the offices are on plugs and they can move them around or store them in the winter or do whatever they want to do. So within the next couple weeks, things will be fully moved over there. Alaska Marine Excavation guys who have had containers and gear on that shoulder for eons, well before I've been here, they just moved all their cans yesterday. So we're in the process of cleaning that shoulder up.
So we have a bunch of our stuff over there.
Yeah, we got rid of some of it in U-Haul we haul, but there's a lot there still. Culverts and just a lot of random stuff.
Anodes,
Yeah.
Bunch of stuff.
Whatever Public Works decides to keep or put over on the north side of Fondos where their containers are gonna open up that whole shoulder.
We were just talking, a lot of that's actually gonna go to landfill, just for long-term storage out with Aaron.
That works too.
Some of those catch basins and concrete collars of different types that haven't been used in a long time and may not be used. But we don't wanna throw them away.
Forbid.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Anything else? Drew, do you have anything?
No,
I have a few questions as far as this is what we're discussing right now is the whole no pedestrian traffic and whatnot. I guess two things that kind of come to mind. I guess I haven't seen them in a while, but the tier whatever, you know, after you have your TWIC card and stuff to even get out there. Is that gonna play issue with people that can and can't go pick people up, cabs or whatnot? Is that a?
Nope.
No?
Because
So
they're in a vehicle, but they can't go past the,
if they enter a secure or restricted area, which will be marked, they have to be escorted, but escorted by somebody with a TWIC. So if AML is out there and AML has crew, their crew have a TWIC. If they have a couple, one person can escort up to 5 people without a TWIC. Escorting is visual line of sight. So if we have a cab show up to a cruise ship security gate or a research gate, it's a foreign research vessel, we could just wave them through. They could pull right up to the ship. People could get on and off. They could drive out. They don't need a TWIC.
To me, just thinking about having traffic out there, I realize people are people, but, you know, I mean, for the most part, you know, people, I'm gonna say a terrible statement here, are smart enough to know that when things are moving around that they can kill you and whatnot, and they know how to kind of stay away from equipment because it looks big and scary. You know, how do we have a plan as far as like these cabs and people that don't necessarily have the best driving street cred, going around heavy equipment, knowing that, hey, you know, when somebody's out here in a loader loading rock, they're not looking for you. You need to stop and make eye contact with an operator before you progress. And, you know, there's some rules of the road, if you will, that, I mean, who's going to be responsible for letting these people know that that's how it works? Because I've seen a number of beat up trucks from things getting hit and whatnot, and I can just see how this could unravel pretty quickly with one accident, just one accident. And that would be the end of, we'd have a lot of written protocols after that. I guess I'm just a little worried about that.
So this went to both the folks with boats with that people, as well as our traffic, or our cargo folks as well, notifying them that there will be less foot traffic, but we may be seeing more vehicles. So we'll definitely have to notify our operators to be on the lookout, which if someone was stacking gravel and we had a research vessel in, they're notified ahead of time that there's gonna be a research vessel, there will be shuttles, and we just all have to look out for each other.
And we advise the vessels when they come in. The guys ask them how they're gonna be transported back and forth to town, whether it's crew, because they're getting a rental, or they're gonna be moving in cabs. We usually find that out and stress that with them on the limitations based on what's happening while they're in port.
Yeah. I think we should, even if it's just a little something, if we're gonna have cabs going out there on the radio, I feel like we should get something to RJ, give his guys something. Say, hey, this is how it is on our port. This is what we expect. We expect you to be driving 15 or 10 or whatever our speed limit is out there. We have different expectations as maybe you would have on Front Street. And just reiterate that, because again, if we have one accident out there, it would be absolutely catastrophic. It would just be terrible.
There have been a number of close calls, I guarantee you that much.
Over the years,
Just,
yep.
A couple of the cab companies that were mentioned were given 2 tickets last year on the causeway
so,
by our known PD.
so then let's definitely get that piece of paper and have our CO, ourselves covered, that we did our due diligence.
Yep. It'll be reiterated again this season for sure.
Awesome. I'd hate to see something like that happen because of anything that we changed.
And then last thing I have is the anticipation completion date for the painting on the bridge. How long is that gonna
Causeway
last?
Bridge.
Yeah.
Bristol, because of our lovely cold weather that they're having right now, they didn't anticipate it to be so cold. They just the last couple days started utilizing some large heaters, pumping heat under there. And I don't know if they started today or if they're starting tomorrow. They're supposed to be, they've been sandblasting, and then they're gonna be spray metallized coating, but it's gonna kind of be roll from one into the other. I think once they do an initial sandblast job, and they have to go over it and within 10 minutes coat it or something.
It's an immediate seal.
Yeah, so they're trying to get the climate conditions nailed down right now for that spray metallized coating. I think they had some delays on the early end of the project this season, so they got some of the grouting concrete work done that they were anticipating to do at the end. So I think it's sandblast, spray metallized coat, get utilities in there to hang them cross members, and they're wrapping up. So a couple weeks.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it sounds lengthy.
Couple weeks. Could be shorter. I'll bet you a little bit shorter, but a couple weeks is my guess. In the meantime, we are asking everyone to go extra slow. There's extra signage. Sometimes they have a flagger standing there to wave people through depending on what's going on under the bridge at the time. And all the traffic, the barge companies we've been talking to, as well as like logistics, who's not yet here, talk about what they have coming across, making sure we don't have anything extra wide and ugly that is going to cause issues with what they have going on at the bridge. And so far, so good.
All righty. Moving right along to the port director report, project updates.
I just have one thing, the Cape Nome project, the jetty repair is underway. They've been dredging, excavating the stone that is from in front of the docking area. And they have been placing B-rock on the tip. Pre-construction survey is done, the construction template was prepared, they've calculated the quantities a little bit different based on the storms we've had since Murbach, moving materials around on the seafloor. Nothing significant, and their in-water work is in progress, and they are moving along pretty quickly. So they're fairly confident they can finish the project well before, final completion, I think is scheduled for November 1. They're confident they'll be done well before that, as things are going so smoothly.
Did you say November 1?
What's that?
Did you say November 1?
That was final completion. Substantial completion, I think, was October 15. They'll be done. That was just a target on the bid package.
Gotcha. That's good.
But things are going fine. They started last Sunday. What is today? Thursday? They started last Saturday. And they are moving right along.
Hope you make last barge, I imagine.
We jumped through some hiccups. Try to everybody working inside the same small area, but we got it all sorted out, and they've been making progress since that time.
Any questions of the port director? Drew, do you have anything for the port director? All right, moving right along to unfinished business. We have none. Under new business, I would need a motion, or actually, we need to put the strategic development plan final draft up to a motion for acceptance with amendments and adjustments as we discussed. So I guess I need a motion.
I move to approve the plan pending the completion of our edits to it, and forwarding it on with our recommendation to the council to approve.
I have a motion. I need a second.
I'll second that motion.
Call for the question. Roll call, please.
Commissioner McCann,
Yes.
Commissioner McClure,
Yes.
Commissioner Lee,
Yes.
Chairman West,
Yes.
motion passed.
All right. At this time, we open up the comments to the citizens for citizens' comments. Do we have any comments? Questions? Seeing none. Commissioners' comments. Commissioner McCann.
Just thank Commissioner McCarty for his comments around the safety in that specific area. I don't think I have anything else. Thank you.
Commissioner McCarty.
I should have discussed this when we were talking about the pedestrian, or just kind of like muster points or rally points they're called on here. Just a quick question. Do we have anything as far as structures in mind for people out of the weather, something? Because that was one of the biggest points of contention talking to passengers, was that when they get off the low wall there, or the floating docks, there was just nowhere to get out of the weather. And I know we've had a couple of little pop-up tents before, but when we're talking, a ton of people and this and that, especially if we're moving, it would just help delineate where these rendezvous points are as well. Like, oh, hey, clearly there's a building there that I'm supposed to stand under until my school bus shows up, or whatever it may be. Do we have anything like that, or do we have any unallocated funds of which we could, on the fly, come up with something, or?
Well, we do have cruise ship funds, head tax funds from the state, which have to be used in the interest of items that benefit cruise ship traffic. And Lucas will have to tell you that he's been looking for additional pop-up tents to serve in that purpose. I don't know what he's found.
We found a couple, and we're looking at a 10 by 15 and a 10 by 10, 3-wall tent, full back wall, half side walls that can be folded up if you want. that say welcome to Nome, City of Nome and Porter logos on them. As well as some heavy duty rubber mats to lay down from the heads of the floats to where the buses load, or from out on the causeway where they get off the ramp. Last year, we had a number of people in the gravel and made the comment, they wish they had a better surfacing. But it's tough to not give them mud if we put something else in there. So we're gonna see if we can put some smaller rock in it this year, but for this, we're gonna be getting those. Last year, we also, for the Wester Dam, brought down 2 bus shelters, since they're not, the kids' bus stop shelters aren't used. We just had it as a place to get out of the wind. Crew used it for anything that was hanging out ashore, but we could probably put some of those up. I like the having in the future some type of a covered bus stop type thing that could hold more than 5 people. Because whether you're talking a tent or a bus stop, it's pretty cozy. It's not really for a lot of people.
And if it's raining sideways, it's not gonna help much either. And it's not necessarily real appealing to the eye, but if we did have, say, some 40-foot connexes and even just some rope lighting of some sort, I mean, a 40-foot connex is a pretty nice thing to tuck away from the weather when you're in it. I'm sure we could probably round up something like that. That'd be a lot bigger than a 10 by 10. I mean, I'm not poking fun at, but 10 by 10 is pretty small. Anyway, that's thought of that after we were discussing this. Other than that, I don't think I really have any additional comments. Thank you.
I'll make my comments short and sweet. I'm glad that we're moving right along with the strategic development plan. It's definitely a work in progress, and we have come a long way and continue to work towards the betterment of our facility. Our next regular meeting is July
17.
17th,
Mhm.
5:30. Need a motion for adjournment.
Motion for adjournment. I thought we discussed possibly foregoing the meeting in July. Did that not? I thought that was the discussion.
Do what?
Not having a meeting.
No, I thought we were having some scheduling issues and we were.
No, that was last month. We postponed it for this month.
I think that was for this month.
I have to listen to the minutes. I